All right, we are live. Welcome. This is Orion Rising. I am your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into the show. Check this out, check this out, check this out. It's Friday night. The Law of One. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Rick. Let me pull down this overlay here, this banner that's here. Pull this down. There we go. Put myself up into full screen. Welcome to everybody out there and around the world. It's Friday night. It's the Law of One. And let me go back to comments so I can see that you're here. If you're here out there in the audience, say hello so I know that you're here. Sorry, I'm looking at myself on the camera and going, what is that on my face? It's something on the computer screen here, and I don't want to mess with it too much because I have a touch screen and it could screw things up. Okay, so welcome. This is the Law of One. I am your host, Leonard O'Neill, and right, I am good. Rick, I hope you're doing good. Thank you for asking. Right, you got to go to work today. Sucks for you, right? That sucks, bro. I mean, it's good because what you do is kind of cool. I wouldn't mind being a tour guide of some sort over in Uluru in Australia. That's freaking some people's dream, bro. You know how many people want to go there, including myself, and have never been? And you like work there. You see it every day. You're there every day and you talk about stuff that goes on there every day. It's pretty badass, bro. So that's kind of cool. Okay. So like I said, share this out, get everybody in here. Where's everybody that's normally here? It's Friday. Where are they at? Are they all running around, running amok, getting crazy? Has the world come to an end and I don't know about it? I don't know. Okay. So we're live on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Instagram. Yes, we are live on Instagram right now. I just thought I would check to make sure of that. So share this out. Cassie, welcome. If you don't say hi in the chat, I don't know that you're here. I just see numbers. I don't know who all's here and who all's not. I just know that there are people tuning in. And of course, if you're listening on the MP3 broadcast around the world somewhere, you cannot talk in the chat because I'm not live on one of those platforms for you guys to call in yet. But I'm working on that, so that we can get involved in that. So we're on session 59, and I backed up to question 3 of session 59 because we didn't get very far last week because we were doing too much talking about ecosystem of the planet. So and you know the whole infrastructure of the world at the time. You know now what's going on. So I won't be messing around talking about that this week. And I got stuff on my glasses, so I can't see anything. Right, Penny, welcome. Denise, welcome. Like I said, share this out. Get everybody in here. Where is everybody that's normally here on a Friday, right, or a Saturday, depending on where in the world you are tuning into the show. Right, there's nobody behind us. Everybody is either already on Friday or already on Saturday because we're almost the last in line to the prime meridian, Alaska. You know, a little bit of Canada, Alaska, Hawaii, a couple islands out there. Fiji, I think, is on this side of the prime meridian. Don't quote me on that. Right. So I don't know for sure. Right. So, okay. So I'm going to go ahead and get started because I don't want to waste too much time like I normally do getting into, you know, any, there's no current events that are, I mean, there's political current events going on around the world. We don't need to get involved in all of that right now. I talked about that last week, so I'm not going to talk about it this week just because it's getting a little crazy out there, and some of you don't even pay attention to what's going on. Some of you are living it, so you don't need me telling you about it, right? Okay, so I'm going to do a sound check, and let's make sure that you guys can hear it okay. I know I'm going to have to turn the sound up a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and start it here, if I can get that brought up over here. I'm going to go ahead and start this so we get a sound check on session 59 of the Law of One, question number 3, okay? So here we go.
59.3 Questioner. I have a question from Jim that states, I think I have penetrated the mystery of my lifelong anger at making mistakes. I think I have always been aware subconsciously of my abilities to master new learnings, but my desire to successfully complete my mission on Earth has been energized by the Orion group into irrational and destructive anger when I fail. Could you comment on this observation? Ra, I am Ra. We would suggest that as this entity is aware of its position as a wanderer, it may also consider what pre-incarnative decisions it undertook to make regarding the personal or self-oriented portion of the choosing to be here at this particular time/space. This entity is aware, as stated, that it has great potential, but potential for what? This is the pre-incarnative question. The work of sixth density is to unify wisdom and compassion.
I'm assuming you guys can hear that because nobody said anything, right? Oh, no, Danny did. Thank you, Danny. Danny said, sounds good here. Thank you. Oh, no, Penny did too. I didn't have my glasses on. I apologize, Penny. She told me it sounded good and I didn't see that. I'm like, I'm assuming you guys can hear it and I'm not just sitting here with dead air. Okay, let's continue. Oh, welcome, Danny, by the way. All right, let's continue.
This entity abounds in wisdom. The compassionate is desirous of balancing has, as its antithesis, lack of compassion. In the more conscious being, this
right. And Penny said that's a question that I ask a lot. We actually have to. We actually have to remind ourselves, and this is what he's doing right here with Jim. You have to remember that you're a wanderer. So as a wanderer, you already come into this life with a step up. You've already gone through this. So you're supposed to be able to identify triggers and easily or easier and try to nullify them and not get caught up in all this. But it's not easy. I talk to people about this. Remember, I am a minister. I talk to people about this when it comes to Jesus. And they showed that in Angel Studios is filming the television show called The Chosen, or just Chosen. I don't know if it's The Chosen or Chosen. I think it's The Chosen. Anyway, and they're doing a really good job of staying pretty close to the Bible, but they do take a little bit of liberties in there. But a lot of it is things that nobody that was witnessed and inferred or talked about, but they didn't describe it like you would a book if you're writing a book in detail, and they show it. However, some of the stuff we know happened, and in the beginning when Jesus was alone, before he started picking up his apostles, the 12 students, he was, and even after that, but specifically before that, in the scene I'm talking about, it was at night, and he was in his little camp that he had with his little tent and a fire pit, and he had a fire going, and he was praying, and you could see that he was afraid and worried about things here because of being in the human form. He's subjected to all of the things that everybody's subjected to here: ego, all of the emotions, including fear and other emotions, and angst and anxiety. And he had to overcome that. So my point of this is, even the Savior of the people, the Son of God, had the same issues, and he was a wanderer. He came back down from a higher plane to assist the people that were here. And he even had these problems. So there's no way that any of us, is my point, are not going to have these same issues. Because if somebody that great, and even Muhammad had these same issues, think about the story of Moses and how great Moses was. He had the same issues, fears. He had the same worries about the world and people around him, people that he loved. So every single person throughout history, look at David. They just showed in season 2 or 3 of The Chosen, episode, I don't know, it's 2 or 3. They started in the time of David, and Bathsheba's, his and her daughter or son, I think it was their son, was sick and dying. And he literally was so afraid that he wouldn't eat for 6 days, and he was prostrate on the ground praying to God for the life of his child, which died. And then he got up when he found out about that, and he went, took a bathed, took a shower or bath, however you want to put the water over his head, and he cleaned himself. And then he went and started getting ready to eat, and his wife said, "Why are we getting ready to eat at a time like this?" And he said, "I haven't eaten for 6 days because I've been praying to God." And he didn't talk about his fears. He was trying to help his wife. And he was still sad, and he was still having fears, but he was being strong. He was king of the Jews, the most famous king of the Jews, David. And Bathsheba said, "Why is it that God sometimes answers some prayers and not others?" And he said, "I don't know." He said, I don't know. Okay. And he was trying to help her through that moment. So he was holding back his own tears, his own anxiety, his own sadness to help his wife in that moment. Then later in the episode, Jesus is there, and I don't remember the apostle, but his soon-to-be wife was murdered by the Roman. I can't think of his name right now. I think it was Polonius. Don't quote me. It could have been Pelagius, but that sounds like one of the Greeks. So don't quote me on who it was. But he went to kill one of the guys, and she stepped in front, not knowing that he was trying to kill, and he ran her through with her sword. And Jesus came over because they were trying to skirt Jesus off so the Romans couldn't get him. He came back, and she died, and everybody said, heal her, you can do that. And he said, it's not her time. And I'm terribly sorry. But he was brought to tears in that moment as well. The emotions of everybody around him, and the sadness of having to tell them that she's not supposed to be here anymore was something that he had to overcome to help everybody around him. So the point here is anger issues, getting back on Raw, talking to Jim, anger issues, sadness, all of those things, we're subjective to that here in this place. No matter who we think we are, no matter who we actually are, we're still subject to that being here in this ecosystem. So we have to, because we know that we're from a higher plane, we have to hold ourselves to a little bit higher standard and go, okay, all right, I get it. I get what's happening, but I have to rise above it and become the adult. And that's not easy, right? So Penny, don't feel bad that it's hard, because it's hard here. This third dimensional reality, so-called reality, this illusion, not just the earth, but any place like this that's third dimensional, is the hardest place in the universe. From here, it's all uphill, but it's all downhill in respect to how hard things are emotionally and life is. The only thing that's worse is first and second dimensional beingness, because there it's survival of the fittest. You're part of an ecosystem where you're food and something else is your food. So you have a predator that's trying to kill you. Here, when you become a human, your only real predator is other humans. And that makes it even worse because they're hiding amongst us. Do you see? Somebody in your own family is a predator. Somebody is, you know what I mean? Your next door neighbor, your boss, the people around you. 14% of all the people in your circle are predators. And they're trying to get you in some way. Take your money, trick you, rip you off, rape you, pillage you, murder you. All of those things, whatever you can imagine that evil people will try and do, they're trying to do. So that makes it worse, because if you're a bear, or a wolf, your predator is a human. So if you see them, you run. You just don't trust them. When you're a human, your predator is a human. There's other animals that will take the opportunity to kill you, but they don't hunt us. They don't go, they're not specifically trying to kill humans to eat us, right? If you're living in a village over in Africa and a lion gets a taste for human, then that lion might try to hunt humans, but everyone knows it, and they'll go out and try and hunt that lion and kill it so that it doesn't continue doing that. The problem is our hunter, our predator, is one of us. So it's very much far more difficult by 100-fold for us to identify predator from foe from friend, because they can hide here. So this is the hardest place. You not only have wild animals who might take the opportunity to kill you, you not only have the environment that will take the opportunity to kill you because it's hostile, and the seasons, earthquakes, fires, floods, tsunamis, whatever, that could kill you, including all of wildlife might kill you. And then the one predator that you have looks just like you. And it's acting like they're your friend until they jump. So it's the most difficult place to survive in the universe is anywhere where it's third dimensional. So you need to realize that. And because we're wanderers, we should have that in our mindset 24 hours a day, because we come from a higher vibrational standpoint. So we're supposed to learn that faster than everyone else. Even though we don't, we're still we're supposed to hold ourselves to a higher standard and remind ourselves, because we have that ability. As wanderers, you have the ability to already be knowing that you don't fit here. So you're supposed to constantly remind yourself that this place is difficult. And when I have the ego screaming all these hideous things to me about the world's coming to an end and we're all going to die and what's going to happen and I'm going to starve to death, or that one's going to kill me, or this is going to kill me, and these people are going to take over, and those people, whatever, you have to go, shh, I'm aware of all that because it's expected here. Yeah, get it. Quiet now. I'm not listening to ego anymore. It's shush. Move on. And the ego is still going to yell in the background, but you can tune that out. Just keep it there to keep you learning. That's what you need the ego for. So you listen to it, you don't hear just want, and ignore it completely, because you still need it. Because ego will also act as an early warning system for you, because ego is going to tell you what would do. And so ego is going to say, that one is trying to kill us. That one's trying to rape us. That's that sense, that spider sense that tingles in you. It's not just, people don't realize where that comes from. That it's the ego in you that says, if I were a predator, this one is who I would be. So be careful. This one's giving me a weird vibe. That's also guides that come into you and go, be careful. This one is probably a predator, or this one definitely is. So you have to constantly remind yourself, and this is what Ra is telling what's his name right now here, because it's not easy here. So we have to remind ourselves, wait, I can't get angry and get triggered, because that's what this place is trying to do. And I'm supposed to be the one that's rising above that and capable of not doing that, so that I can assist these people in some way. However you choose to do that, even if it's just choosing to be a good person, living your life just so that you serve as that example, and your beingness being here at a higher rate of vibration helps the all to uplift the all on average to a higher vibration. Okay. So yeah, right. Cassie says it's so true how confusing it is, because it is. It's just confusing. The entire episode that's happening to us is not easy, right? Cassie said, "Oh, she was just feeling triggered today, and I was, and can I feel her heaviness as well?" Oh, so now you guys are having a conversation. Sorry, you were having a conversation within a conversation in there, in the chat. So yeah, so you just have to remind yourself that I come from a higher place, and it's okay to have these triggers and emotions. But the first step in avoiding trap is knowing of its existence. So once you identify, whoops, wait a minute, I got triggered there. Stop being triggered. Whoops, this is really bothering me. Why? You have to psychoanalyze yourself in that respect, learn to do that on the fly, because this is what we're trying to teach all of these people what to do. They don't know how to do it, right? So we have to hold ourselves to a little bit higher standard and fix ourselves on the fly as we're trying to fix everybody else and educate everybody else. Because if you're not educating yourself and you're trying to tell everybody else that they need to rise up, no one's going to listen to you. Then you become yelling people that yelling, you guys are asleep and you're not listening to me. If you just listen to me, I have all the secrets. And people are going to go, okay, crazy person. Do you see? So you have to fix yourself so you're a little bit more calm about things when you talk. I get passionate about things, talk faster, and get intense. And I have to remind myself to tone that down. I know that I get that way, right? So I have to work on that myself and try to tone that down. But I don't yell and scream. I never did. I was never one of those that went, you're asleep and you're asleep and you. I was never that person. I moved past that very quickly in my awakening. As a child, when I realized that I was awake, and then what did that entail, and how much do I know that these people don't know? Because when you're born awake, you just assume everybody is like you until you start finding out what is their problem. Why are they not like me? How come they don't know what I know? Doesn't everybody know this? And if you don't have anybody around you, you'll just go, I don't understand. And so if you have somebody around you that gets why, and they can guide you, they can go, no, they just don't know. It's not their fault. And that's what Jesus was trying to teach us when he said, Father, forgive them for they know not what they do. Many other lessons that not just Jesus, but other people were trying to teach throughout time about that scenario in their own specific way, just like I'm trying to do, just like other people are also trying to do. Okay, let's continue here. Whoops, sorry. I almost closed the window instead of pushing play.
Expresses or manifests itself as lack of compassion for self. We feel this is the sum of suggested concepts for thought which we may offer at this time without infringement. 59.4 Questioner. At the end of the second major cycle there were a few 100,000 people incarnate on Earth. There are over 4 billion incarnate today. Were the over 4 billion people who are incarnate today, were they in the Earth planes but not incarnate at that time, or did they come in from elsewhere during the last 25,000 year cycle? Ra. I am Ra. There were 3 basic divisions of
Hi, Pamela, by the way, and Ashley. I didn't say hi to you guys. I thought I saw you talking in the chat, and I had to put my glasses on and check. So welcome, guys. Let's continue.
Origin of these entities. Firstly, and primarily, those of the planetary sphere you call Maldek, having become able to take up third density once again, were gradually loosed from self-imposed limitations of form. Secondly, there were those of other third density entrants or neophytes whose vibratory patterns matched the Terran experiential nexus. These then filtered in through incarnative processes. Thirdly, in the past approximate 200 of your years you have experienced much visiting of the wanderers. It may be noted that all possible opportunities for incarnation are being taken at this time due to your harvesting process and the opportunities which this offers. 59.5 Questioner. Just to clarify that, could you tell me approximately how many total mind/body/spirit complexes were transferred to Earth at the beginning of this last 75,000 year period? Ra. I am Ra. The transfer, as you call it, has been gradual.
Okay, wait, before we get into that, so I wanted to point out, okay, so 75,000 years, there was a destruction of the earth at 77,000 years, approximately 77,000 years ago. And nobody knew about that. So in 1984, when people say Carl is just making all this up, we didn't know about the destruction of the earth 77,000 years ago yet in 1984, 1981 to 1984. And this is happening in 1981, this session. So how could Carla make up that this session of time, this harvest started 77,000 years ago? This cycle began 75,000 years ago. Now scientists say there was a destruction of the earth that the entire global population almost completely died out approximately 77,000 years ago. Okay? And that the only people who survived were people in South Africa and Madagascar, because those are high enough up and down, and south far enough down south. Vikings in the north, Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Aborigines in Australia. I'm pointing this way because I'm sitting with my back to the Pacific Ocean. So that way is southwest, literally from where I'm sitting. I'm facing almost directly due east. I am facing due east right now, right? North, south, east, west. Australia is southwest from me. Okay, so how could Carla manifest that if she was making this up? That 75,000 years ago was when this cycle began. Just wanted to point that out. And we have proven that through science now, that 77,000 years ago, the global population of the earth dwindled to about 300,000 people total between those 3 locations. And the current population of this earth is the expansion from those 3 populations of peoples back onto the world. So how could they have known that if Carla was making this up? Other things, but I like to point them out, right? Like the pyramids down underneath the Ocean of the Japanese Triangle and the Bermuda Triangle. That in 1981, Ra told her that they were there. We didn't know that those were even there until 2012. Okay. In 2015. And we didn't know about that there was a destruction of the earth 77,000 years ago, even though it was foretold or told in history in some of these scrolls, these ancient scrolls. We didn't know that these ancient scrolls survived until 1948 for most of them. And then when we started finding them in other places around the world, including the Colburn Bible in Scotland and the Book of Kells in Ireland, when people started looking at that and realizing that these religions were telling of a destruction of the earth, the Viking Sutur and the Hindu Shiva, the destroyer of worlds, that this destroyer of worlds happened 77,000 years ago, when this god or goddess in some countries came and destroyed the earth. So it was told in these religions, but it was told as if it was a deity, a god. And no one realized that it was a meteor or a asteroid until later on, when we started looking at things that happened here on the earth in the ground and to the peoples, and discovering better dating and finding out that all these structures that were around, like Stonehenge and a few other places, Göbekli Tepe and a few other places, where we find out now that they were created more than 77,000 years ago, and that population disappeared right around about 77,000 years ago. And here's Ra saying 75,000 years ago, this cycle began. Let's continue.
Over 2 billion souls are those of Maldek which have successfully made the transition. Approximately 1.9 billion souls have, from many portions of the creation, entered into this experience at various times.
Okay, so 2 billion of the Earth's population that came in around 77,000 years ago, slowly came from Maldek. That doesn't mean that they're all still here, okay? And other places, you just heard, 1.5 billion souls came from other places as well. Let's continue.
The remainder are those who have experienced the first 2 cycles upon this sphere, or who have come in at some point as wanderers.
To answer your question, Cassie, the 3 populations were South Africa. Off the coast of South Africa is Madagascar. People on Madagascar, people in South Africa. That was one group of the Africans that survived. Australia, the Aborigines over in Australia. And up in the north in Norway, Finland, and Sweden, those people at the far north, mostly Norway, were the only populations of the earth that survived, because they were far enough away from the impact and all of the dust cloud created and all of the distortion when the planet was flipped over on its axis, when it came back up, when the meteor went by. That was when they heard the trumpet sound. It went by so close that we heard the sound, whoa, in the air as it flew by. That was foretold in all the religions of the great destroyer of worlds. Sutur is called the destroyer of worlds. Shiva, is it Shiva? No, yeah, I think it is Shiva. In fact, Oppenheimer quoted, "I have become the destroyer of worlds," which came from the Bhagavad Gita, which was talking about, I believe, Shiva. And other religions have the same foretelling of this goddess that flew through the sky and destroyed the earth. So when we put all of those together, just in looking at religions from a historical standpoint, we find out they all happened at the same time. And it was further back in the past than the flood. So it was a destruction of the earth that was further back than that. And then in some cultures, they talk about that as being the war of the gods. And when you look at all the timelines of when they said that occurred, it was somewhere between 75,000 and 78,000 years ago. So then we look back on the earth itself for things, and cutting into the landscape and going down and dating things to when every layer was. And there's a layer at the 77,000 year mark, which is that black layer where the planet burned, that destroyed the entire scenario. Then there's the one further down that's bigger, from the Younger Dryas, where all the dinosaurs died. So some cataclysm happened at that time. So we have proof, empirical evidence that coincides with all the religions that are surviving on this earth of a destruction of the earth population. And when we put that together with empirical evidence on the earth, and now we're finding structures that still survive that were created, dated back prior to that. And when we look at those people and go, when did they disappear? It coincides with all of what these religions were saying, all of what we're finding physically from these buildings and when they disappeared. And then in the earth itself, when we look at the layers of the earth, tree rings and things like that to help us date, but tree rings don't go back 77,000 years, but fossilized stuff does. So we've literally been able to trace all this back to the exact same moment. And when they put all of that together, they're like, this was a asteroid, either an asteroid impact on the earth or an asteroid that came near, and some of the pieces of the asteroid became, or the comets became asteroids and crashed into the earth, and it destroyed the entire global population of the planet. And we now know through DNA, through the testing, because of people with the out of Africa theory, and then the Australians talking about the out of Australia theory, and then everybody's testing DNA from around the world and going back and digging up mummies and testing the DNA from the teeth and things like that from the mummies around the world. They come to find out that what everybody thinks is Europe and the Middle East, that they're like, well, everybody from Africa were there. As it turns out that no, they were actually descendants of Vikings. And then from the Denisovans, or the Australian Aboriginals, the ones that they call the hobbits, those people migrated in and bred with the Europeans. And then eventually the Africans came in and bred, but there's still pockets in Australia and in the north that never bred with any DNA from Africa. So the entire civilization couldn't have come out of Africa because I don't have any African DNA. It doesn't breed out. The markers are still there. It just gets less and less and less. I have 0. And there's a 10% of the population of this earth that doesn't have any African DNA. And those are all the people that have the Rh negative factor, okay, in their DNA. So that means that your DNA came from either the North or Australia. That none of your ancestors ever bred with anybody that was African. Okay, so there is that. So they now know that most of the Middle East going into Europe was originally the Vikings made their way and were living in all of that area before the other people started breeding with the other people and started making the races that are there now. So that's isn't that crazy, right? Okay, let's continue.
Some wanderers having been in this sphere for many thousands of your years, others having come far more recently. 59.6 Questioner, I'm trying to understand the 3 spirals of light in the pyramid shape. I would like to question on each. The first spiral starts below the Queen's Chamber and ends in the Queen's Chamber. Is that correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is incorrect. The first notion of upward spiraling light is as that of the scoop, the light energy being scooped in through the attraction of the pyramid shape through the bottom or base. Thus the first configuration is a semi-spiral. 59.7 Questioner, would this be similar to the vortex you get when you release the water from a bathtub? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct, except that in the case of this action the cause is gravitic, whereas in the case of the pyramid the vortex is that of upward spiraling light being attracted by the electromagnetic fields engendered by the shape of the pyramid. 59.8 Questioner.
Sorry, I thought I paused that. No, Cassie, I thought the same thing. Cassie said, thank you, Leo. I figured Norway area and Africa, but I thought maybe somewhere in Asia. I thought the same thing. I thought somewhere in Asia as well, right? And I'm like, why was there nobody maybe in the north of Asia, what they call Caucasians, right? Apparently, no. Apparently, the people that are now Asian, Chinese, Mongolian, and Japanese came later, right? Now that gets into just like the people in the north, some of the Viking race came later, and that's why the DNA doesn't match with any DNA that's been found here less than or more than 10,000 years ago. The Asians came also later. So this is part of what Ra is talking about here, where different races were coming from other planets and were migrating to this place because they had destroyed themselves and their planets in their third dimensional reality, wherever they were. And when you come here as a soul and you're still trying to have that soul memory, that's why we have 7 distinct races here on the earth, and then everybody's breeding with those 7 distinct races. That means that everybody that was here, there's one distinct race that is indigenous to the earth. All the rest of them were either, like those 3 even that were left over from the society that was destroyed 77,000 years ago. Those people may not have been from this earth either originally. Those races may have also come in that during that cycle, came here as a representation. So the people from Moldek, when they blew themselves up and they got stuck, when they came here, the dynamic that we have going on now with this power struggle with nuclear weapons and bioweapons is a product of theirs, because they blew themselves off the face of the universal map with nuclear weapons. So they wanted to come through and learn the lesson that they didn't learn the first time. So now, of course, because of that, we have that going on down here on the earth. Okay, so that they brought that baggage with them. So the distinctive races, like the Chinese and the Japanese, they came here after the 77,000 year time period, right? So they're not part of the people that were already here. They came from, I'm wanting to say the Palladians, but not the ones that everybody thinks of. They're part of the race that is the praying mantis race. That's why they have the slanted eyes. So a lot of people try to say that the Asians are descendants from Greys. Well, the Greys are a descendant from the same praying mantis race, and there are still praying mantis people, but they came from the Pleiades. But they're not the Palladians that most people think of that they are. Or I should say, most people, when they say I'm a Palladian, they don't see themselves as a praying mantis person. They see themselves, because you always project yourself as a human. So they're like, yeah, I wasn't a human over in the Pleiades. No, you were either a Gray or you were a praying mantis when you got here. And the representation of that is Asian people. Okay. So all of the people that are here are a representation of the race that they were when they got here. Like, for instance, the people on Mars, when they came here, that's your red-skinned Native Americans. Okay, those people came from Mars. The Moldekians are also the brown people in South America. So the Polynesian separation from the natives, and then they interbred, and now they're almost indistinguishable between the two. But if you look at people that are Polynesian and they were out on the islands, the Hawaiians, the Fijians, the islands that were there, including New Zealand, until the white people got there, and now they've interbred with them. But mostly a little bit further north that were there, the Rapa Nui on Easter Island, these Polynesian people that were out there on that big giant landmass that's underwater now, they were of that race from Moldek, and they've now moved and integrated across the world. But that doesn't mean that everybody that's in that physical body came from there. That's just here now that everybody can jump into, just like the race that I am. I just happen to have came in this race to remind myself, to help me to be able to have the perfect storm to be unveiled, because I came from the Orion's belt and I'm half-breed Celt Viking. So I came here to physically be born into a half-breed Celt Viking body, so that I would remind myself of everything, so I would have the perfect storm to be unveiled. But that doesn't necessarily mean that. I was other races in other lifetimes, right? At one point I was Egyptian, but I was not a king or some crap that everybody thinks they were a pharaoh or a king. Everybody has delusions of grandeur. Nobody says I was Walt the janitor. I was the nobody. I was somebody so inconsequential I died when I was 14. No one says that. They were all like, I was Moses, I was the King Arthur, I was, everybody has delusions of grandeur. Nobody just says I was just some schmo. 99% of you guys out there, you were just some average schmo. Not everybody could be the kings of Sheba. All right, let's continue.
first spiral after this semi-spiral is the spiral used for study and healing. Relative to the Queen's Chamber position, where does this first spiral begin and end? Ra. I am Ra. The spiral which is used for study and...
Well, Reese, that's so funny that you said that. Reese says, I wonder if Moldek was near Malmac. Moldek was actually a planet, Reese. It was what we call the Kuiper Belt now. It used to be a planet, and they blew themselves up a long time ago. And they blew themselves up about 156,000 years ago. Some people say it was millions of years ago. I don't believe it was that far back. However, the Malmac people, so you're very in tune, because you know what they look like, right? The Malmacs were smaller, squattier, and there's images of them, the statues that are built. They're only, they aren't like 30 feet tall. They're only about 6 feet tall, and some less than that. And they had the helmets on. That's the Malmac, right? Am I saying the wrong people? I believe you're right. I believe I am. So yeah, no, those people actually were the Moldekians, the original ones that came here. So you're actually catching on to that, either because you are one of them or you're a little bit more unveiled than you think you are. Otherwise, the guess would have been, Moldek, Molmac. You know what I mean? I can see how you would, even with an educated guess, might see that, but they named themselves the Almac and the Molmac. The Almac people being another group, by the way, Almac, Molmac, to remind themselves of Moldek. Do you see? That's very astute of you to catch on to that. I know you're laughing about it, but you're like, oh, no, that's probably not true. But you're a little bit closer than you think, right? Cassie said, I was on Moldek and I have had 2 visions where I saw the world exploding. And was before, let me put this up on the screen so people can read this. I'm going to read this to the people that are on the MP3 broadcast because you can't see that on the screen. I'll start over. I was on Moldek, and I have had, this is Cassie saying this, I have had 2 visions where I saw the world exploding, and this was before I ever heard the name of the story behind it. I was completely shocked when I heard the name for the first time and thought my brain just created it. So she thought she had created that storyline, and then when somebody told her about it, she was like, no fucking way. Right? So yeah, that's other people like Jamie Watson Wolf. She remembers. Jamie Watson Wolf is a very good psychic. Those of you who are fans here in the audience with me, you know what I'm talking about because you know her. She remembers being a blue avian, which Cassie was also a blue avian in another incarnation. But Jamie was a blue avian, and she remembers, even though she's afraid of the whole fifth dimensional thinking and being a wanderer and all of this, but she does remember that she was that blue color and had feathers, and that these Orion Crusaders came and were conquering her home world. And she remembers that her mother was helping them, and she was trying to stop her mother. And she remembers that her world blew up. And she knows that she only talked about this once on any show ever that I've ever seen, and it was years ago. I don't even know if she remembers saying this. I've never had a conversation with her about it afterwards, but I would love to. So she knows that she's here because of that, and that most of her race on that planet are gone. And those people who are blue avians who are here on this earth, that will ring true with you, because you guys are refugees who went and were staying and living in the Orion's belt with relatives that were still, you guys didn't get scattered to the winds, but your home world was taken over, overrun by these same Orion Crusaders, and blew it up, tried to kill everybody that was there. And many of you escaped, and some of you died, and then were reincarnated into bodies and chose to come into a new blue avian body. And you were predominantly trying to stay into that to keep that race alive. And now you're down here on this earth in a human body, and that you came from there chasing the very people who tried to annihilate your entire species. I don't talk like this very often and say these words, but Jamie Watson Wolf, if I was ever able to have the conversation with her. I would love to let her know that, and I know that who she is and why she's here, but she's reluctant, and I don't push anyone. Those of you who know me know that. I don't push anyone to wake up before they're ready to. So if she chooses to never do that in this lifetime and only chooses to be a medium to help people, that's what she's chosen. And I will never push her in any way to do anything other than that. But I know that about her life. And a lot of that I got from Ray, who told me that stuff about her after I told her what I knew and what I thought. Those of you who know Ray know what I'm talking about. Celeste, welcome. So Peter, I didn't say hi earlier. Hi, Peter. Peter popped in. Peter Coyle from Ireland popped in earlier, and I forgot to say hi. And he just popped in and did the pray hand, so I thought I would say hi. Okay, so let's see. Cassie said I wasn't a blue avian. I was Syrian, still blue, but not a blue avian. Maybe I'm misunderstanding what did you not have feathers and spots on your forehead? Was I mistaken in that? Those two races are so similar that I could be picking up one and the other. So I'm not sure. You would have to tell me because I'm not going to presume to know more about your life than you do or your soul than you do. But I could have swore that you had maybe it wasn't feathers that was slicked back, and you had the spots on almost like my freckles, only bigger. So I could be wrong, but that's what I thought. So I'm not sure, right? So sorry, now my cat's coming up here. She's going to in a second try to walk across my keyboard. I'll try to keep her from doing that. Hi, baby, I love you too. You're so good girl. Yeah, too good kitty. There's water there. You can drink some of that water if you want. So she's going to drink some of my water now. So she was wanting to see me, and she just jumped up on the table. Hi, baby, kitty. Hi, kitty. She's now rubbing on the computer. Okay. So, yeah, okay. So Cassie said, yeah, that was somebody else. Okay. So as long as I know that it wasn't, because I'm seeing your face, but because the blue avians have they look like a robin. Or not a robin, but a cardinal. The cardinal has the little tail feathers that come out here. So the blue avians look more like that. But then the Syrians are also the same color blue. Shiva was a Syrian. So the gods of the Hindu religion, who were that dark blue and some of them purple, they were Syrians. They were from Syria. So I do know that. Right. So maybe that's why, because straight on, you guys kind of look similar, right? Shiva, right, does. And who's the other one? That they look similar. They just don't have feathers. So but I know that Jamie was blue avian and had feathers. But all you guys look alike to me. No, there's that racist thing, right? All you guys look alike to me. No. But that's just like when people talk about humans, right? We have here on this planet, we have brown, we have really dark black, we have, peach colored freckles like me, different brown, red, yellow. Some are really bright orange, not on this earth, but then there's orange, yellow, blue, purple, red, in between, like a scarlet color. That's just of the bipedal humanoid that I'm aware of, that are species that are out there. Okay, let's continue a little bit here. Right, thank you. Yeah, Cassie said, okay, yes. She says, yeah, laugh out loud. We do look similar, and yes, Jamie was a blue avian. Thank you. So yeah, if I don't see you sideways, straight on, if you're wearing a hat or something when I see you, or your hair has the same cut, it almost looks like the feathers that they have that goes back, because they don't have hair on their heads, they have feathers, right? And so the blue avians do, but some of them have a bird beak, and but some, not all do. It depends on the race, even within the sub race within the race. People don't realize that. So not all blue avians look like a bird the way they depict them here. Right, that's just like Ashtar. The way he looks in all the cartoon images of him is not how he actually looks. He's more chiseled than that. He looks more like a woodland elf than he does a than he does the pictures that they show with his hand having a star and glowing, because that's not real either. Okay, let's continue.
Healing begins at or slightly below the Queen's Chamber position depending upon your earth and cosmic rhythms. It moves through the King's Chamber position in a sharply delineated form and ends at the point whereby the top approximate third of the pyramid may be seen to be intensifying the energy. 59.9 Questioner. Now, the first spiral is obviously different somehow than the second and third spirals since...
Yeah, the Halls of Amente, for one, has all the records there, the Akashic records. Penny asked the question, how do you find out this information, meditation or something else? Some of it, first of all, you have to develop the skills to then be able to tap into the Akashic record. But once you develop that skill to where you can access it, then you can channel it anytime you want. So you can access that and literally do it while you're speaking to people. You can do that. Oracles learn how to do that. Mediums learn how to do that. So you have to work on and want to have that skill, first of all. Then you have to start meditating and communicating with your higher self and your guides. And then you'll start remembering having the dreams where you're pulled out of body and you're sitting in the Akashic records, having conversations with your guides and other people. And then you come back down here and you don't have the memory of what you talked about, but you knew it was some really important shit when you were there and you wanted to remember it when you were here. You get the memory of having the conversation, but it's veiled to you. There's stuff that even people who are unveiled are still veiled to. Our own future, we're still veiled to, because when we're down here, we still sign on with things that we want to learn as extra credit. So we can't know those things ahead of time. We can know everything about everybody else, but we can't. That's why psychics have to go to psychics to find out their own stuff, because we can't do it on ourselves. We don't get to have that. That's part of the laws of the universe. Even people that are unveiled don't get to know everything. It's rare. Jesus was able to be completely unveiled to where he could see his own future and knew when he was going to die and how. Okay. So even the Melchizedeks don't know their own future. They can know everybody else's future, and they know all of their past. Okay, I could use that title if I wanted to, but even that's limited to the things that you set down for yourself to learn here in this place. You don't get to know that, right? So that's something that people have to learn and deal with, right? So Cassie said, I first felt very connected to the Syrian when reading the things, and then multiple psychics have randomly said it, and I've had the visions. Celeste said, I wouldn't suggest messing with the record timelines. It can crash within your mind. Right. No. Yeah. Okay. Let me put that up on the screen for people. A warning, note to warning. What Celeste is saying, right? I wouldn't suggest messing with the records. Timelines can crash within your mind. And if you're not, that's why nobody can play with magic with a K until you're capable, high magic, until you're capable of doing so. Because if you try, things can happen, and you can literally all of a sudden get this crazy download that'll crash everything in your mind, and it'll screw you up for a while. And you could, if you don't have people working with you, you could end up like thinking you're crazy and going cuckoo because you can't figure out what's going on. Right. Right. Oh, see, I love when you're here, Celeste, because you tell some people some of these things that I wouldn't think to say. Right. She says, always think of Doctor Who. Time isn't a line. It's all wobbly. Right. If you guys don't know who Doctor Who is, you should look up Doctor Who. It's the longest running television series in the history of our planet, or at least the history of our civilization. Still on the air, and it started in like 1942. And it's still on the air today. And it's an English television show. And it's about the Time Lords and the temporal war, the war going on throughout time with good people and evil people, some going forwards and some going backwards in time. And in there, they say time is not a line. It's wobbly, because it is. And then Yoda said this in Star Wars, in one of the Star Wars movies. I think it was The Empire Strikes Back. He said to Luke, the future is hard to see because it's mostly emotions. So that's why time is wobbly, because time is when you look into the future, you're seeing the most direct outcome that is emotionally driven by the majority of the people, not a definite timeline. So the future is not a line, like Celeste just said. It's wobbly. So it's kind of hard to navigate when you're looking into the future or trying to set things in the future. That's why those of us who are trying to fix the future, we're nudging the present and the past slightly so that we can keep that wobble on the as close to where we want it to fix things. But it still can get out of control at any second. And that's why Celeste was saying, be careful when you're trying to access the Akashic records, because if you think you can control that, you can't. And that's where it can crash in your head and screw you up. Right. So I love how that's her logic. Celeste has that different way of perspective of seeing things to say them. And I wouldn't have thought to say it that way, but she's 100% right. And I'm a big Doctor Who fan. I've been watching that show my entire life. Okay. So 23rd of, I thought it was 1943, not 1963, but Peter said the 23rd of November, 1963, the first episode of Doctor Who aired. He could be right. I thought it went back to the 40s. Either way, if it was 1963, that's still the longest running television program in history. No one's made it more than 20 years. No, there's only been a few series, like right now, like you have NCIS that is in its 20th season, I think. And that's one of the long. MASH ran for like 20 years. So it's rare that television programs last that long. And I mean, if you think about that, it was 1963 when it first aired. Here we are in 2024. Okay. That's 61 years. Did I count that right? 61 years. That's insane. That's a very long time, right? Cassie said, we all have different gifts that come to us at different times. I don't see future things. What is that? What is the key E, the K-E? I don't know what the K you do. Just because you haven't yet doesn't mean that you won't, right? No, you looking at everything is possible for every person, and every ability is possible for every person. You just have to focus on it and manifest it. And this is what we're talking about, and Celeste is talking about, because the law of attraction, the laws of the universe are that what you put out, what you sow, you reap, right? What you reap on earth, I shall too reap in heaven. What you sow on earth, I shall too sow in heaven. So what you sow into the land, you reap. So that's the saying, is you reap what you sow. So if you want to have abilities, you have to make yourself be able to. And the only way that you can do those things, especially when it comes to the Akashic records, is you cannot be in service to self, and you can't fool the universe. It doesn't work that way. You can only fool humans in pretending that you're good when inside you're evil. You can't do that with the universe. The universe knows the difference. So you will not gain access to things that you will use to harm other people or destroy other people. You can only take what's already here and control that to harm other people. That's how this place works. So no one is going to be able to access the Akashic records before they're capable of accessing it. First, you go there and your guides are talking to you and you don't remember it. Then you start going there when you're asleep and you remember that you were someplace that seemed very important and you were having a conversation, but you don't remember what that conversation was. As you start expanding yourself and going up in vibration and ascending, that starts turning into being able to access portions of that. Mediumship comes first, where you can talk to other people from the other side, have conversations, and ask your guides from have conversations with your guides while you're awake. Then eventually that moves into, you can then start picking up memories of past lifetimes and things that are your records, because you can access those because they're yours, but it's only of the past, not of the future. Then you can then move into other people, because of going down the road of being a medium. You're already starting to tap into other people to help them then as that expands and you've proven yourself to the universe and you become expansion of your psyche and you're ascending, you gain the ability to have the sight to look at other things as well as who people were in when they before they were on Earth and the like. But it's not easy to do, and it takes a lot out of you. So you need to be careful, like Celeste was saying. You need to be careful because there's a price here that you paid for. This is why I have water sitting next to me, which I need to take another drink of. You have to learn that it'll burn up your sugar and it'll burn up your water. Whenever you transmute energy in this physical place, it burns up your sugars and it burns up your water because it goes through your body. As a Reiki master teacher, I had to get used to that. As a medium, you have to get used to that. As a channel, I don't do that because it's even harder. What Carla is doing for the Law of One is very taxing on your body physically. When you're done, you're famished, you need comfort food, you need water. By the time I get off of doing this show, especially if I start channeling things, I'm almost dehydrated. And I have water that I have with me, but it's not enough. I end up drinking like 3 of these before I go to bed, sometimes 4 to get myself rehydrated because I get so dehydrated. It burns up so much energy going through my body. Okay, Anna, welcome. I didn't see you there until I just happened to look up. Stephanie, welcome. Okay. Right, so what is it this says here? All you need is faith, trust. Let's put this up on the screen. And pixie dust. I love that. True Wiccan fashion, right? You have to believe that it is possible first. Agreed. You have to know that it's possible first, right? But the pixie dust is a good touch because it's true, right? You have to have faith, trust, pixie dust. Notice how that's rhyming there, by the way, guys. Faith, dust, pixie dust. Faith, trust, pixie dust. And then you have to believe, you have to know that it's possible. You can't think, right? So you have to believe it. You have to know and believe it in your heart that it is possible. And then you have to have that faith. And then you have to have the trust. You have to earn the trust of the universe, but you have to trust in the universe and surrender. And then the pixie dust comes after that to be able to do that. I love you, Celeste. Right? Let's continue here. Okay, let's continue.
They have different uses and different properties. The second spiral then starts at the end of the first spiral and goes up, I assume, to the apex of the pyramid. Is that correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is partially correct. The large spiral is drawn into the vortex of the apex of the pyramid. However, some light energy which is of the more intense nature of the red, shall we say, end of the spectrum is spiraled once again.
Yeah, Cassie, it burns up all of your water and your sugar out of your system. And to Celeste's point, the pixies do too, right? All of the wee folk. That's why the best they love if you do something like a sweet and sour, like a lemon with sugar on it, or what's that other fruit? The grapefruit with sugar on it, and like whiskey or something. We used to put that out in the garden every night because they love the sweet and they love the sour, and they love the drink, of course. So you would put that out for them, or like the honey water that you put out for the birds to drink the nectar that you put out, because they burn that off as well. So yeah, so you get that when you transmute energy in any way, doing card readings, doing Reiki, doing medium work, doing channeling work, vision quests, anything that you're doing where you're in some way either leaving your body or tapping into the higher records, that just burns up. That's why I always laughed, even when I was in my 20s. I always made the joke, but it was jokingly serious. Show me a witch or a warlock, and I'll show you someone who dyes their hair, because you burn the pigment out of your hair. Because of the stress that your body gets under from transmuting energy. So it's rare that you find somebody who is a priest or a priestess in any religion that has to do with channeling energy, casting spells or teaching it, or a healer. If they don't have gray hair, it's because they're dyeing their hair. I'm allergic to dyes, so I can't. This is all natural. This is me. What you see here is my what's left of that color of my hair. This is all natural. I can't dye it. I could use, like, I have some dye from India that, what is that natural dye that they use when they do the drawings on people's hands and stuff? Henna. I can use the henna because it's a coffee in a earth tone thing that I could put it, but I would have to put it on my face and leave it here and wrap my face with something to cover it to get the color back in. So I don't. I just go all natural, right? Right. So yeah, Pamela says I have a bit of whiskey out for fairies, and they, what is that? And they stop moving my stuff, like right in the front of us stuff, like drop out of the thin air and in the bed, right? So they were messing with you because they knew that you could sense them, and they were trying to get your attention. And once you started putting out a little bit of whiskey for them, then now they don't do those. They don't play the tricks on you because now they know that you know. So they're going, I know that you know that I know. So so you're venerating them and saying, I know you're there, and I'm not afraid, and I love you, and here's some good stuff. And they're going, woohoo, thank you. Right? Gotta love that. Thank you, Cassie said, I like your white beard. I don't have any choice. It's white. It's just, this is my color. It went white by the time I was almost 48. By the time I was 50, and then it's just a little bit of color here and there. But by the time I was 50, it was done. My father had the same thing happen. There's a picture of him when he was 44 or 45, and his beard was already all white. So it's in my DNA. I didn't have a chance. Right, here we go. Let's continue.
Causing an enormous strengthening and focusing of energy, which is then of use for building. 59.10 questioner, and then the third spiral radiates from the top of the pyramid. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. The third complete spiral does so. This is correct. It is well to reckon with the foundation semi-spiral, which supplies the prana for all that may be affected by the three following upward spirals of light.
Now, I know we covered this last week, but I wanted to recover it because we did a lot of off-topic talk. So if some of this, if you're listening and going, wait, didn't we hear this last week? We were staying way off of the energy topic and talking more about stuff going on the earth. So I wanted to recover this session, and that's why I'm not making as much conversation that's off topic. I'm trying to stay on what they're talking about. So they are talking about the alignment of the energy in the pyramid. So we did cover this, and I know that we covered this, but I wanted to recover it because there's a few things that I know that we didn't cover that we should have last week. Okay, so let's continue. So if it sounds familiar, I didn't mess up and start playing one and not realize that I did. I did do it on purpose, but you'll see as we go so we can cover this stuff. And we have, just us talking about what we're talking about now is more on topic than what we talked about last week when we were covering this. So let's continue.
59.11 questioner. Now I am trying to understand what happens in this process. I'll call the first semi-spiral 0 position and the other 3 spirals 1, 2, and 3. The first spiral being study and healing. What change takes place in light from the 0 position into the first spiral that makes that first spiral available for healing and study? Ra, I am Ra. The prana scooped in by the pyramid shape gains coherence of energetic direction. The term, upward spiraling light, is an indication, not of your up and down concept, but an indication of the concept of that which reaches towards the source of love and light. Thus all light or prana is upward spiraling, but its direction, as you understand this term, is unregimented and...
Right. So is that Sherry, right? Sherry says, the work that I do for people around me makes me lose so much weight. I try to put it back on, but I've lost it all again. I end up looking like some drug addict. Well, that's what you have to eat. We always tell everybody when I'm teaching magic, and Celeste can answer this if she's still here. So I'm sure she does the same. And when we're doing Reiki and I'm teaching people, because I'm a Reiki master teacher, if I'm attuning people, Reiki 1, Reiki 2, Reiki 3, we tell them that you need to eat comfort food and starches when you're done burning that stuff, because you will. If you look at what happened to Edgar Casey, he withered away and was, everyone thought he was dying of cancer because he weighed 103 pounds at one point. It burns every bit of energy you have. And this is where they're constantly talking about Carla in the beginning and the end of every session, asking what Carla can do, because the same thing was happening because you're burning up your own energy. So we teach you to tap into the universe and draw energy. And we always do this, but it's not actually, you're always getting everything from the ground up. Kundalini comes this way. Everything comes from the base up to the top, up through the spine. It doesn't actually come down. Even the stuff that comes down goes down and comes up into you. You expel it this way, but it doesn't go in through your head. It always goes in through the feet and up your body. You're tuned that way. But we always make this because everyone thinks it comes from the air when it actually comes the other way and goes out. You're a Tesla coil. If you've ever seen a Tesla coil, you're a Tesla coil. So you have to learn to draw the energy that you're going to use for everything that you're going to do ahead of time. If you're not sure how to do that, I can work with you. I teach people how to, and I think Celeste does this too. Right? Yeah. See, she's talking about homemade bread with herbs. Celeste is saying, right? But sorry, I read what Pamela said. Totally would not look like our half Viking Celt Leo without his beard if I took my beard off. Have you ever seen me? I have a picture of me. I don't look the same. People are like, oh my God, you look 20 years younger. Because then I look my age instead of looking, this makes me look like I'm 70 or something, right? Because it's all white. So yeah, teas, broths are good too. Stuff that can replenish, and especially teas and broths because they have the liquid and the energy in the liquids, and then they have their antioxidants as well. So they have sustenance, and you can charge that with energy. So we teach you how to draw energy in to prepare into yourself so you have extra energy. And I teach people to set up, like say above you to the right, in your mind's eye, like a bubble, like a battery that will hold energy that is attached to you, so that when you start depleting your own energy, you can tap into that energy that you have drawn up. It's like blowing up a balloon full of energy for yourself, and know that you have that energy. If you need that tool to say, this is how much energy that I'm going to need, and it needs to ride shotgun, you can do that and know, and this gets back to what Celeste was talking about before, where you know, your intention and knowing and believing that in a thing. So you draw the energy that you're going to work with. And Carla learned to do this when she was doing a channeling session, and Ra was aware of that. And they said, we will only deplete the energy that she drew to work with, so we don't deplete her own personal energy. One of the first things you have to learn if you're in this industry is to do that so that you're not using your personal energy, because that will make you sick. That will do damage to your body. That will make you lose weight. That will make you your organs take damage. It could cause you to catch a cold, catch the flu, because it lowers your immune system, because you're burning up all of your own personal energy. And that feels bad when you do that. That's like your whole aura gets depleted. If you've ever had an energy vampire steal your aura, you know what I'm talking about. You know how that almost hurts. You feel like your soul has been depleted, because in some sense it has. In a very real sense it has. So you have to learn to prepare and draw in energy so that you have an abundance of energy, and know when that energy is depleted, I either have to on the fly draw more so I'm not using my own energy, or I need to stop this session. So you have to know your boundaries. But even in doing that and just moving that energy through your body, it's going to burn up all the sugar that you have in your bloodstream, and it's going to burn up because it goes through your body. It goes through your bloodstream. It goes through your endocrine system. So it goes through the water of life that is within your tree of life, for you to transmute that energy, even when it's just knowledge that's coming in to your physical beingness to merge with your soul. And that's the price that we pay in the 3D. So that ages us when you do it, depletes your energy, and it's going to age you anyways. And then if you're a wanderer, you already don't fit into this physical body. So that's going to create issues where you have all these autoimmune issues in your body anyway, because your body, this body in this reality, doesn't understand why this higher soul is in this body, and it doesn't vibrate right, and it doesn't match up perfectly. And so time isn't a constant, right, Celeste? It's a wobble. So you have to constantly re-wobble everything to stay into this reality. And the same thing happens when you're trying to work outside of this reality by moving outside of the time space that you're in here and transcending to that place where everything is now. This body doesn't understand that. And so it becomes very stressed. It's stressful for this body to transmute that stuff. And if you pay attention, when you're doing that or have other people in the room with you, handlers, they'll see that your body tenses. If you ever watch those people that are channeling when they're up on stage, rarely do they look relaxed. They're talking very relaxed, but their body looks like it's stressed. I had to just de-stress. I didn't realize I was holding stress like this in my shoulder until I realized what I was talking about and then went, oof, let that go. You don't realize that you hold stress either in your core or up here. You'll hold that stress and your body will tense and you won't know your body's tensing. That burns up even more energy faster. So you have to be aware of these things, and you have to, and then afterwards, you're still going to be hungry. You're not going to have any sugar and you're going to be thirsty. And if you go pee and look at the color of your pee, it's going to be dark yellow or brown. And hopefully it's not brown, because that means you didn't start with enough water in your system. But it'll be darker. It won't be clear in any respect. So you have to make sure that you have going in. And we talked about this last week, and I'm going to talk about it again. If you go to a tattoo artist to get a tattoo, they will tell you, go and get something to eat before you come here. Why? Because they know that the stress of tattooing your body is going to burn up all the sugar and the water that's in your system. So they tell you to have fuel. Go and eat food so that you have fuel in there, because just sitting here with me going on your body is going to burn up everything. So if you come in and you don't have any sustenance in your body, they're going to go, you're going to pass out. Some people do it anyways because of fear. They pass out, but other people do it because they literally have no energy to give. And if you're already skinny, you don't have much energy to give. So you better go and eat a pizza or some Chinese food or something that's got a lot of carbs in it so that you can withstand what's happening to you, because you don't understand that a tattoo is implanting that. And I have 13 tattoos. That's implanting that ink in your body. And if you're getting a tattoo, you shouldn't be getting something that doesn't mean anything. You should be getting a tattoo that means something to you. And all of my tattoos are religious, all of them, except for one. I have a biohazard symbol tattooed right here on the bottom of my neck, right on the top of my shoulder blades. That's the only tattoo that I have that is not a religious tattoo, but it is to me, because that biohazard, when people say, why do you have the biohazard symbol tattooed on you? And I say, because what is a biohazard? It's a biological entity that is dangerous to your health. That's me. I'm a biological entity that's dangerous to your health. That's why I got that tattooed on me. So you have to do that. Drawing Down the Moon. I haven't read that book forever, Celeste. That was written by, wasn't that written by Cunningham? Don't quote me. It might not have been Cunningham, but it came out at the same time that he was writing books. Drawing Down the Moon is a great practice to get into. There's an actual book called Drawing Down the Moon, and I think the same writer wrote Brother Wolf, Sister Moon. You should read that one as well. Those are like 40-year-old books, but Drawing Down the Moon has been an ancient practice for calming. And yes, I agree. Let me put that up on the screen. I know that Celeste isn't just some person. She is, in fact, a Wiccan priestess and has her own coven. So she's not coming from a place of, I think I know what I'm talking about. She's coming from a trusted place that I know that she knows what she's talking about, because I've known her for almost 10 years now. And her and I've worked together for over the years in helping people to learn this craft. Okay, so you should always, right? Pamela says, I never leave the house without an intention of protection bubble to save any energy from me only letting in those that I want. Yeah, you have to be aware of that stuff, right? What is it? Sherry says, laugh my ass off. I need to buy a Chinese restaurant then, right? It's impossible for me to turn a feeling of everyone when I go out. Well, you just have to learn how to turn that off. The fear and anger and sadness that you have an empathic ability. And I had to learn when I was very young to turn off my empathic natural sense that I had, because I could hear everyone's thoughts. I could hear their sadness. I could feel it in my heart. and my heart ached and I would cry, and people would say, "Why are you crying?" Because that person is sad, and inside they're crying because of what's happened to them in their life. And I can feel that. You have to learn to be able to tune that off into the background so that it doesn't affect you. And we teach that by telling people to veil that. Psychologists teach that when they're doing, when they're hypnotizing people and they're regressing them to deal with a trauma. And when they start seeing the trauma, they tell you you're seeing it through a veil and it can't affect you. You can see it, but you're not feeling it, tasting it, smelling it, and experiencing it. It's like watching a movie. And when you get the people to pull back away from the actual memory of what's happening, because your body records it as now. So when it plays it back, it's now. The same thing happens when you're tuning into other people. You tune into them now, or the memory that they had now. You're tapping into their memory of what happened to them or what they're going through. You have to learn to distance yourself to be able to see it, but not feel it unless you want to. And if you want to feel what they feel, you can. So you have to become aware of that when you're doing it, to say, I will let this wash over me and not affect me. I do not accept the emotion that is here, but I want to still be aware of it so that I know what they're going through. And then you will see it as not you. You won't move into their memory as if it's you in first person. You'll still see it, but you'll still be outside. And so if you look at it, it's going to hurt. It's going to make you sad, or you're going to laugh, or whatever it is that they're going through. So, but you can see it peripherally by focusing on them and still see the emotion here. And then when you want to feel the emotion, you can glance at it and accept it in. You need to start becoming aware of that and do that. So that will save you some of the energy that you're burning by getting all of that channel at the exact moment. Celeste, do you have anything else to add to that I'm missing there? Ebb and flow. Thank you. Right? Ebb and flow. I feel, I recognize, I release. That's the most important part of what Celeste is saying there. I feel, I recognize, and I release. So you're not holding it in. You're not living it for yourself and taking it on as one of your memories that is now, seeing it just like I said. So yeah, Celeste, if there's any other advice, please type it and I'll talk about it and put it up. So once you start getting control of, acknowledge that you have the ability, and then start distancing yourself away from it. It's still there. You can still look at it when you want to, but it's no longer affecting you. You're letting it flow through you and then releasing it. I'm not holding it. It's not mine. And then at the end, we tell people, like when you do Reiki, to at the end wash your hands. Right, because the energy that you're transmuting, you have to turn it off. Right, Christopher Penzick always said, "Hands on Reiki on, hands off Reiki off." But you also have to, when you're done with Reiki, you have to stop the energy, shake it out, shake it off. Right, Taylor Swift, shake it off, and that was what her song was about. It was about shaking it off. Right, shake it off, and then wash your hands of it. Right. So that way I only accept my energy, and my energy is all that I have, and all that I keep. Everything else, I return to the universe and thank the universe for allowing me to have this. God, Celeste, you just pulled me back into my priest, Wiccan priest, my Druid priest years of teaching. That's funny. Thank you for that. I haven't gone to that level in a while. So you have to do these things. I want to know what they're going through. I want to feel that, but I don't want to hold on to it. So there's perfect words of what Celeste said there. Ebb and flow. You have to be in the ebb and flow. I feel, I recognize, but I release. The most important thing. I release that. It's not mine. I'm not going to hold it in. It's not going to go into my heart and set there. I'll pull it there if I need to know what they're going through. But then when I'm done with it, I'm done with it. And then it's just a residual echo, just like the timelines in reality are not a line, they're a wobble, they're an echo. History doesn't actually repeat itself, but it echoes. Right? People always say history repeats itself. No, it doesn't repeat itself exactly the way it did the first time. It echoes. So it's an echo of that. So it's almost the same but different, right? So you have to see that and manage that in yourself to pull that veil back, or put the veil back there over the things that are not going to be yours. That's theirs. I needed to help them so I can see it when I look at it, but I'm not going to become it. I'm not going to let it become me. So you have to do that. You'll find that you'll be able to retain weight. You won't get really skinny, but you still have to eat food prior to, drink water prior to, and have water with you while you're working. Because water is your life, and without it, you will die on the desert planet that is called Dune. Right? Let's see. Well, we can work with you. Get a hold of one of the girls and get, and we'll see if we can get you in the chat, and I can work with you. And Celeste, I can't speak for her, but I know that she might, if she has time, work with you to help you learn how to do that, so you don't end up burning up all of your life force while you're here, because it'll shorten your life. It ended up killing Edgar Casey. He died because he did too much work without distancing that, and he ended up with stomach cancer, and he died at a young age because of doing that. And there's hundreds of books of all the stuff that he tapped into in the Akashic record, but people were asking him who's going to win at Churchill Downs tomorrow in race number 3, and they were using his information for their own benefit, which, if you know the rules of 3 times 3, that's just bad for you. And if you don't, you should learn that stuff, and you should talk to Celeste about that. She'll teach you that. If not, I will. So you get what you put into the universe, you reap what you sow. And if you're not taking precautions, other people can take advantage of you and do damage to you, and they don't care about you. They just want to get out of you what they wanted to get out of you. Yeah, you just have to learn. Sherry says, I find it hard to let go. Yeah, you have to learn to go into it. This is what Celeste was saying with the ebb and flow. I feel, I recognize, and I release. Your intention to start with has to be that. So you're not trying to let go after you've already got that ick on you, right? If you stick your hand in a can of paint, it's already going to have paint on it when you pull it out, and you're not going to be able to get it off of you. But if you put your hand in a glove first, then stick it in the paint, you can pull the glove off your hand, and it's not touching you. You have to go into every session with the I will go as far as I can to help them, but none of that is going to be mine. I'm not keeping any of it. You have to go into that knowing that, and that way you can still look at it when you need to, but from a distance, and keep that veil between, that barrier between yourself and what you're doing with working with other people, channeling anything in any way, transmuting anything in any way. Okay. All right. So let's continue a little bit. So if you need to, I must learn more. Yes. If you need to, I can work with you and get a hold of me after the show today. I'll set up a time when we can talk, and I can work with you, or Celeste can, if she's willing to do that. And we can teach you some of this stuff. We have people, this is what we used to do. I used to have a group that Celeste and I were in, that I created, that she was there, where we were psychic reading and development, where we would teach people their skills, and then teach them what they need to know to defend against evil, or to do these things and keep yourself from burning yourself out and doing harm to yourself. We just moved into a different phase. I did, and changed that group to returning to the old ways, and don't teach that stuff as much anymore. I do it more one-on-one, but we had a whole group of people that's what we did in that group for about 5 years, was teaching people how to do that and go forward in this phase of what we're doing. I can't speak for Celeste unless she continues to want to do that, but myself and like Cassie and Peter, who's in the group here, and Pamela, who's in the group here. I can't speak for everybody else yet, Penny and Denise, when they're ready. But we're moving into a phase where we want to be able to have a platform where we can work with people like yourself to make sure that you have the tools you need to be able to do the work that you want to do and take care of yourself, because no one is around to teach this stuff unless you're in a coven of some sort. And even then, a lot of them try to indoctrinate you. So it takes a rare person to create something like Celeste did, where she's not doing it for her own purpose, because a lot of them become corrupted in the covens. That's why I never joined any kind of coven like that. Being a druid priest, I never wanted to do that, because they're all become orthodox religions, and then they're about bringing as many people on board as they can so they can expand their frame of control and get bigger, because they want to be the world dominant whatever religion or whatever, right? So you got to look at that, right? Yeah, see, Celeste is working on that herself, right? I've been working on getting more organized so that I can go back to helping people, right? So yeah, I mean, and then yeah, online covens are dangerous. They become cults, right? So that's why I never wanted to join even physical ones, because of that, because they do that, and Celeste knows that. When I first met her, the first thing she said to me was, "You're going to kick me out of your group," because I've been kicked out of every group on Facebook because of how real she is, and she wouldn't change her ways to end up being controlled by a cult. And they were like, "You're out of here," and she'd be later. So when she got to our group, she was like, "You're going to boot me out," because everybody does, because I'm outspoken, I am my own person, and I don't fall in line and do what I'm told. And I'm like, "Oh, you'll fit in perfectly here." So she's been in and out doing that ever since, because I don't chase you, I don't force you to do anything, we're not in service to self, we're in service to others, right? That's what happens. You end up being a solitary practitioner because of that. She did exactly. I end up being a recluse for a week after. Well, you end up doing that when you're helping people, because you have to. Yeah, now you have to heal yourself, because you're not taking care of yourself to begin with in the beginning, to protect yourself so that it's not as damaging. But I do talking here. By the time I get off of here, and in another hour or so, or an hour and a half or so, whenever I get done, I won't talk hardly at all the rest of the night. I'll get food from my mother, because I'm my mother's caregiver. She's 80 and dementing. She's sitting in there in the living room watching television right now. And I hardly will say any words at all the rest of the night. And if I talk to anybody online, it'll be with my thumbs, because I do the same. I create a space. I cast a bubble to work in here. I am pushing all negative energy out so that I can then transmute this energy and focus it the way I want, but it still is taxing. I can feel it now. I'm getting hungry, and I ate something before I went online, right? And I've already drank half of my water, and I know that I don't have enough water in my system currently, because I start channeling this stuff. You have to get used to it, and so you got to prepare. And you have to take it serious and prepare ahead of time, and then take care of yourself ahead of time, and then know when to stop. And so good psychics, you'll see them constantly drinking water, because they know what they're doing, and they're keeping their water level up. And then they'll only go a certain time, and they'll say, "I got to go," because they know they're depleted of their energy, and they're starting to burn their own energy, and they'll end the session. All right, let's continue.
Not useful for work. 59.12 Questioner. Could I assume then that from all points in space light radiates in our illusion outward in a 360 degrees solid angle, and this scoop shape with the pyramid then creates the coherence to this radiation as a focusing mechanism? Is this correct? Ra. I am Ra. This is precisely correct. 59.13 Questioner. Then the first spiral has a different factor of cohesion, you might say, than the second. What is the difference between this first and second spiral? Ra. I am Ra. As the light is funneled into what you term the zero position, it reaches the point of turning. This acts as a compression of the light, multiplying tremendously its coherence and organization. 59.14 Questioner. Then is the coherence and organization multiplied once more at the start of the second spiral? Is there just a doubling effect or an increasing effect? Ra. I am Ra. This is difficult to discuss in your language. There is no doubling effect, but a transformation across boundaries of dimension, so that light which was working for those using it in space/time/space configuration becomes light working in what you might consider an interdimensional time/space/time configuration. This causes an apparent diffusion and weakness of the spiraling energy. However, in position 2, as you have called it, much work may be done interdimensionally. 59.15 Questioner, in the Giza pyramid there was no chamber at position 2. Do you ever make use of position 2 by putting a chamber in that position, say on other planets or in other pyramids? Ra, I am Ra. This position is useful only to those whose abilities are such that they are capable of serving as conductors of this type of focused spiral. One would not wish to attempt to train third density entities in such disciplines.
Right. So that's talking about the Kundalini energy that is actually for the real 4D, not what everybody refers to here as 4D and 5D. So they're talking about the Kundalini energy that is going through the pyramid, because the pyramid is actually this portion of your brain. This is why you had who was it, Leary, that did this, and then he did this. He was doing this, and this is the ram's horns, which is your which is the what is the name of that? I can't think of the name of it. The hippocampus in your brain that actually comes off and spirals around here. That's where he was doing this. And then when you see them doing this with the third eye here, the third eye is not in position 1, not position 2. So your third eye is here, and position 2 is here, right below the crown chakra, and that is only, it's the halfway point, and that only opens up when you're actually in 4D and 5D. And so the pyramid itself is literally like from the base of your skull right here up to there is what the pyramid is representing in the physical plane. And that represents all of the chakras of the body. So it can be transmuted over the top of the human body. So if you look at, say, the circle with the Vitruvian man and the circle with the pyramid in the center of it, or the pentacle, the 5-pointed star, those all represent the exact same energy that is inherent in physicality, in the human body, the physical nature and the spiritual. So that is the charm of making. That is the physical, the nature, and the astral. And those are 3 representations. The Star of David are the balance of the Kundalini energy, because the Star of David is the masculine energy and the feminine energy superimposed over each other, which make up the Merkaba, which is the heart chakra. And the heart chakra, the Merkaba, is a 3rd-dimensional rendering of that 2-dimensional drawing. Those are all the same aspect of the same energy frequencies, from the red ray root to the crown chakra, represented in your brain or around your entire body. And so the Vitruvian man is the focal point, and all focal points are your heart, or the Ark of the Covenant, which is right inside your brain, right here, where the optic thalamus is. Okay, that is the center of the Ark of the Covenant. I have memes or reels up on every platform that you can find. Well, actually, not on TikTok right now, because I just started a new TikTok and deleted the other one. But if you look on Facebook, Facebook Reels, or if you go to YouTube Reels, or if you go to Instagram Reels, you can go back and find that I show you how the Ark of the Covenant is in your brain, and it's a function of the brain, and so is the pyramidal structure in your brain. And the ram's horns that he was doing when he was doing, I think his hands were like this and his fists were like this. So that's actually the ram's horns that he's making. And that's all in your brain, and the enlightenment of the mind. And the Eye of Horus, which most people wrongly say the Eye of Ra, it's actually the Eye of Horus, and that's actually your third eye and your pineal gland, the optic thalamus and your pineal gland. And I will show that as well, how it's superimposed over the brain, and how it is the consciousness that the Egyptians knew about thousands of years ago, and everybody doesn't understand it, and they don't realize what it means. All right, let's continue.
59.16 Questioner. Then the 3rd spiral radiating from the top of the pyramid you say is used for energizing. Can you tell me what you mean by energizing? Ra, I am Ra. The 3rd spiral is extremely full of the positive effects of directed prana, and that which is placed over such a shape will receive shocks energizing the electromagnetic fields. This can be most stimulating in 3rd density applications of mental and bodily configurations. However, if allowed to be in place over long, such shocks may traumatize the entity. 59.17 Questioner, are there any other effects of the pyramid shape beside the spirals that we have just discussed? Ra, I am Ra. There are several. However, their uses are limited. The use of the resonating chamber position is one which challenges the ability of an adept to face the self. This is one type of mental test which may be used. It is powerful and quite dangerous. The outer shell of the pyramid shape contains small vortices of light energy which, in the hands of capable crystallized beings, are useful for various subtle workings upon the healing of invisible bodies affecting the physical body. Other of these places are those wherein perfect sleep may be obtained in age reversed. These characteristics are not important.
Yes.
59.18 Questioner.
Wait, before he goes on.
Would be
Yes, Sherry, and that's what he's talking about, what Raul's talking about now, that you have to be, the adept has to be known, and that's why they're talking about the pyramid and the outside line of the pyramid and what that represents, including that that part of the spiral in the pyramid, and you have to actually know what you're doing. This is what Celeste was referring to about the high magic earlier, where if you're trying to tap into the Akashic records, you need to be careful because there's a cascading effect that can happen, and you could crash your own brain. You could crash your own computer by getting too much knowledge in the beginning. And so the same thing with the pyramidal shape or the Vitruvian man or the pentacle. All of those are different representations from different religions of the exact same energy. And this is what Ra is talking about. So if you're tinkering with something that you don't understand, you can harm yourself. So it can be used, but it can't be used for wrong behavior on a higher level. High magic, magic with a K, can only be accessed by people that are in service to others. Some people can take the lower magic and corrupt that and use that for dark magic. Yes. So what happened with the pyramids and the people in Egypt is that the priests, when they got the knowledge of the law of one, they usurped this whole entire endeavor of this earth because of it. They were souls from Atlantis that were stuck here that call themselves Luciferians today. And they were the evil people that were stuck here and stranded here. This is where we get the whole, this is a penal colony. This is a prison and we're trapped in it. And there's some evil people in control that have trapped us here. That's the lie, that with a little bit of truth. The truth is there are a group of people that were stranded here that are souls that are keep reincarnating on this earth that were stuck here. And those were the evil people that were here from Atlantis, who were the Moldekians. When the Moldekians blew themselves up and got into their civil war, that's the war of the gods that even the Hindus talk about, and the Germans, that was going on at the time on our earth, and the Australians talk about it, and the Vikings talk about it. Almost every religion talks about it that's old enough, that's been around long enough. And there was a civil war, and that was when Atlantis fell. And the people that are still here claim that they defeated the evil gods, and the evil gods ran away. That's not what happened. Those who ran away were the good gods. They were just people in 3D, by the way, with technology. But they stranded the Luciferians. They stranded them here. So they damaged all of their ships so they couldn't fly, and they left them here with what was left over from the flood that didn't die of the human race. And they left the planet and left them here in squalor, and they've been stuck here ever since trying to figure out how to get off this rock. Okay? It's taken them 10 generations to figure that shit out, and they're still stuck here with all of us. And they try to act like they're the Illuminati, the Anunnaki. We're so far superior to you. And no, they've interbred with us for 10 generations because they had to, because they were only breeding with their own sisters and mothers and wives and daughters. So because of that, their gene pool was degrading, and they were breaking down and turning into crazy people. So they started having to breed with other humans, and they bred out because the humans, this DNA is stronger than their DNA. Oh, God forbid, they don't want you to know that. And they bred out most of the traits that they had that they considered superior 10 generations ago. Okay. So now they're stuck here in human form, and their own people won't have them back anymore because you're not of our race. You're like 1/100th of our DNA, and that's it. You're nobody. So they have a hard time even trying to get their own race to accept them back. So they're stuck here. So they took the knowledge, and that's what the Anunnaki with the pine cone is controlling your pineal gland, not giving you. They're not good people. They're not giving you information. They're controlling your pineal gland. And then that little handbag is the knowledge of how to create this shit ass scenario that we have here and control the matrix by making this maritime law system and turning it into a global empire that is designed to funnel all money, 99% of all wealth, to the 1%, which is what we have going on here right now. And we have had this going on for about the last 25,000 years, roughly, but really in the last 10,000 years. And really, really in the last 3,000 years. Really, really. Okay. So this way of life is dying now because we're here to fix it. Okay. So they can only use what's already here. Evil people they can't create. Creation comes from love. That's the Merkaba. That's the heart chakra. That's the pneuma, spark of God. It's an ancient Greek word that means the breath of God, the spark of God. So when you become the pneuma, you should listen to that song by Tool, by the way. They talk about it. Tool is one of the greatest rock bands on the face of the earth. They talk about spirituality and ascension and being stuck on this earth almost exclusively. So did the Eagles with the Hotel California. They had a few other songs too, and Led Zeppelin. Weirdly, a lot of these metal bands around the world, including Judas Priest, everybody thinks they were satanic. They weren't. Rob Halford is far from that. They sing about us being stuck. Hotel California is about being stuck and learning that and realizing the debauchery that is California and what goes on at the Hotel California is us being stuck. And that's why they say we're all just prisoners here of our own device. So you have to realize that's the ecosystem that is third dimension, and they can only control. So they can take, corrupt, control, destroy, and pivot, rinse and repeat. That's all they can do. They can't create anything new. So they can only take a thing that's there and then control it and destroy it. So they don't have any true power. They only have power over physicality. They don't have any power over your spirit, your soul, your immortalness. Most people here don't know that because they don't realize that they are immortal and that they have this immortalness to them, right? Yeah, see, because our third degree, our 3D minds are limited. So when you're veiled, you're limited in your what you can know or what you can reason out until you start your expansion, you start your ascension, right? So you have to start your ascension to figure out what's going on, right? Sorry, I started looking at what you guys were saying here, and I scrolled the screen up too far here. Let me get back down here. So what is it Pamela's saying here? Hold on. Let me get down here. Leonard, I must tell you about my vision the other day on the coil. What's it made up from? They showed me a lot of it. Yeah, okay, so we'll have to talk afterwards so we can do that. So this makes so much sense. Sherry saying, let me put this up on the screen. This makes so much sense with what is being shown with the superstars making the third eye gesture of evil. Well, they take and corrupt everything. And so when they do that and they do like, this or the other different things, they take everything that they have. If you look up what that traditionally meant, even the swastika that the Nazis adopted came from Ganesh. And it literally was over the heart chakra. And it was actually to ward off evil. It was anti-evil, and it was to protect the heart chakra in that religion. And the Nazis took it and used it for their own right. And now it's been turned into a symbol of evil. If you draw a swastika, people say you're evil. And for the first 20,000 years of that drawing and what it was represented, even here in the United States by Native Americans, it was a protection to ward off evil, still is. But they corrupted. They took the pentacle from the pentacle, the 5-pointed star with the point upward from the Wiccans and pagans, and they turned it upside down and put the goat head in it to become the pentagram. They took the cross that Jesus was crucified on and turned it upside down so that it would be the anti that, and so that it would be evil. So that what they do when people say this is an Illuminati symbol, this means I love you in Western American Sign Language. It's not an evil symbol, right? Back in the day when people said that's the symbol of the devil. Back in the day when they talked to Ronnie James Dio, his last name Dio, by the way, means God. Ronnie James Dio, who was the lead singer of Rainbow, and then he was the lead singer of Black Sabbath, and then he went out on his own as a band called Dio. When they asked him about that, he said this symbol. He was a Romanishell gypsy. He said my grandmother would do this, and that was to ward off evil. It was a protection. The only time it means anything evil is if you turn it the other way around. So when he would do that to people out in the crowd, he was actually protecting himself and the crowd. He wasn't saying, I'm satanic. None of his songs had anything to do with Satanism. The reason he left Black Sabbath was because Tony Iommi and Geezer Butler were, in fact, satanic. Ozzy Osbourne was not, but he still grabbed that persona and calls himself the Prince of Darkness. But he's not actually evil. He uses that as the rock star status. Ronnie James Dio was not evil in any respect and never was. So he was telling people this doesn't mean the devil. This is an old gypsy symbol that is to ward off evil. But evil people took that and turned it in. Nowadays, it means rock and roll. It has completely been usurped by good people and doesn't mean the devil anymore. But back in the 1980s, everyone thought that meant the devil. So now it just means rock and roll. When you do this, it means rock and roll, man. That's all it means anymore. So people took that image back. But then some people will say that it's a Illuminati symbol. Evil people corrupt everything and try to overlay their negative energy on anything that is a positive symbol, hand gesture, everything, so that everyone believes that they control it. And therefore it must be evil, so you won't do it. That's why they do that. Okay? They're trying to convince you to believe that, right? Well, Celeste, thank you. She said, I got to run. Blessed be Celeste, and thank you for popping in. Yeah, I know it's getting later. I'm going to have to run soon too. But thank you for being here, and we'll have to do a show together to where we actually have you on. We haven't done that. We are planning something, Celeste, if you're still here before you go. Jacqueline Taylor's putting together a thing for the December 29th and 30th, where we're going to have speakers talking, but we're not going to be doing any readings there. But if you want to talk about the stuff like we were talking tonight, we can talk later and see if you want to do that, because she's looking for people to speak during that. We're only going to be on the air for maybe about 3 or 4 hours and have people talk for maybe 20 or 30 minutes at a time, instead of doing like full hour, and then have panel discussions where people can talk longer. So if you're interested in doing something like that, I'll contact you, or you can contact me later when you have time. But and we'll figure it out. If not, then you don't have to do what So whatever. All right. Have a good night. Okay. Right. So if it's not something you're interested in, it's all good. But if you are, just let me know. Okay. So you to get back on point, let me start a little bit more with what Raul was talking about. So to get back on point of that, we'll go on with the next question. So Raw's explaining how some nefariousness can be grabbed from this energy, because everything in the physicality and 3D has the potentiation for people in service to self and people in service to others. It's only the higher realm information becoming unveiled and gaining that knowledge that you can only do when you're in service to others. Otherwise, you only get to learn about the physicality down here, and that's why you have things going on like you do now with P. Diddy, where he just got arrested. And you have these people that are getting arrested because what are they doing? Controlling people, raping, pillaging people, forcing them against their will to do slave labor or sexual favors, and they can only live in the physical. There's nothing spiritual about them. Their spirituality is the physical. That's their religion. The true religion of evil is this way of life. It's likes, clicks, power, money, fame, controlling all of that. Government, stock market, corporations, the pyramidal power structure that is designed so a caste system with one person at the top and tiers below that, different table levels that you have and that you get, and that's it. Okay, let's continue here.
The age reversal position. Ra. I am Ra. Approximately 5 to 10 degrees above and below the Queen's Chamber position in ovoid shapes on each face of the four-sided pyramid extending into the solid shape approximately 1/4 of the way to the Queen's Chamber position. 59.19
Right, it's getting later for me too. Maybe we should end early tonight because it looks like my mother's trying to get up to go into the restroom anyways, which means that she needs to get in a shower because she's probably soiled her diaper. So I should probably get off here. So now that that's the beginning of a question, let me jot down what question it is so we can start here next time, okay?
Questioner. In other words, if I went just inside the wall of the pyramid a quarter reversed. These characteristics are not important. 59.18 questioner.
Okay, so 59:18, I'm going to put that in my phone. And that's where we'll start next time. I'll probably start at like 59:16 just to back up a couple of questions and get back to where we were. So let me add that to my phone of where we are here. I'll put 69.816, and that's where we'll start. Okay, next week. So because everybody seems like that, most people are having to leave because it's later for those in Europe, and Celeste is here in America, but she needed to go. So yeah, get a hold of me. Right, Sherry, get a hold of me on Messenger, and we can talk more when we have time. Set up maybe a time to either speak to each other or just text, and I can help you with teaching you how to manage that stuff prior to, so you can continue doing it if that's what you want to do, but take care of yourself so you don't burn up so much of your own life force doing it. Okay. And like Celeste was saying, be careful with online covens because they turn out to be cults, right? And I think Cassie said she would help as well in any way that she could, right? So yeah, I mean, let's get you involved with some resources to help you protect yourself so that you can do the work that you seem to like to do, but keep other people's stuff to themselves while you're doing it, and just observe their stuff when you need to help them to get through whatever it is you're helping them get through, or give them readings or whatever. And then you can move on. And when you're done, it's done. And you can get that ick off of you without keeping it, because that will, you have your own stuff that's affecting you. And then you're going to have their stuff affecting you. And that's what's happening to you now. And that's why you're getting all sucked up and look like a drug addict, because you're burning up your own life force and damaging yourself, your physical body. Stop doing that. We'll get you back to not doing that. All right, guys, I got to go. My mother's now taking off her shoes and socks, which means that she has soiled her diaper, and I need to go and give her a shower. All right, guys, I love you. Have a great night. I will see you guys next week. Messenger, look for me on Messenger. If you tuned into here, you tuned into something that somebody shared. So there's a link there to my page. Somewhere there. If not, have one of the girls give you a link to the Law of One chat, and from there you can get in contact with me, Cassie, and anybody else, and we can start working with you to help you to take care of that stuff. Okay. All right. Namaste. I love you guys. I'll see you guys next week. This has been Orion Rising. I am your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into the show.